Welcome, everybody, to the Black and White Podcast, Season 3. Back with another fresh episode. My name is Birch, and I am joined again, as always, with the greatest podcast co-host in the game. Oh my goodness, she's my wife, not my fiance. When it comes to podcasts, she's like Beyonce. Listen, she is the queen bee, the mother of my children, Mrs. Lauren Nicole Paul. Come on, make some noise for her one time, everybody. Come on.
Do not
she
encourage
deserves
him.
a standing ovation.
Do not encourage him.
Woo!
He does this every time.
That's my girl.
This is the thing.
That's all me, bro.
If y'all are
If
you are new to our podcast, it gets weirder every episode. Thank you.
It gets better and better.
Thank you.
It's just like wine, just getting better with time.
I wouldn't know. I don't like wine.
Listen. I'm out here. I got bars. Sign me, Q. Sign me. Listen. Hey, but we are excited to be in Season 3 of the Black and White Podcast. We've had some incredible episodes, incredible conversations with people that we love. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of the whole vision behind the podcast this season is to get into a room with people and to have discussions. And we've been having an incredible time so far. Absolutely.
And so, of course, you'll probably notice we've got some pretty amazing friends.
Yes.
Because these reach outs, when we first were thinking about Season 3, we were like, okay, first of all, we wanted to be couples. We were very clear on that. We wanted to have conversations with couples that are honestly like doing big things and that we look up to. Also, that have alignment in their faith. And, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but tonight I'm really excited because not only just have their faith, but the way that they use that in industries that maybe people don't expect. You think of Christians, you're like, oh, well, you worked for a church. Not necessarily. So this is another great couple that we love and we consider friends. But what I already warned people is when we ask you over for dinner, we're probably going to make you record a podcast.
Absolutely.
So be warned. If Lauren and Birch Paul reach out to you and we're like, hey, you want to grab dinner? Be ready. The microphones are coming out.
And the light is on. We are ready to talk. We're ready to have a great conversation. And so we are joined for today's podcast with Quinell and Sabrina Holder. Come on, make some noise for them one time. I got my applause right here. Snaps, yes. And man, they're an awesome couple, and we love you guys and love getting to do life with you and spend a lot of time together.
Especially now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been such a fun growth to our connection over the years, and then especially maybe in the last 2 to 3 as like you and Lauren have connected on like the wellness and the holistic journey. Obviously, Q and I, I'm into everything that he does from like music to entertainment.
Notice he didn't say we're into the wellness. But true story, we ordered pizza tonight and we had like the Sabrina Lauren approved, which they totally botched it. Side note, but we ordered you guys a buffalo chicken pizza.
And it was delicious.
Hold on. Thin crust.
It was amazing.
I think it was with bacon, too.
Yes, it was.
It was very good.
Don't tell my mom. Don't tell my mom I was eating bacon.
Oh, Lord. She ain't listening to this. You're good.
But yeah, Q and Sabrina, we've kind of like over the last probably 7 to 8 years, either known each other a little bit, but in the last few years have gotten even tighter and closer, which has been really cool. And we just have there's so much that we love about you guys, and obviously we'll share more about that, but I'd love it for our listeners to kind of get to know you guys. So just a little bit about who you are, how long you've been married, what are you guys into, what's your life look like, kind of who you are, what do you do, kind of like give our listeners a little bit of that.
Well, we are the Holders.
Let's go.
Like Birch said, I'm Quinell. I go by Q or Coach Q traditionally. That's how people kind of know me. But me and her own a creative agency.
Yeah.
It's called Medium Creative Agency. It was formerly called Medium PR Agency. We've had that for now going on.
Officially, it's been going on 6 years?
6 years, 7
That's
years.
cool.
We did the rebrand about 2 years ago.
But we've been doing work together for the last 12 years.
Yes, and we've been married for
8.
8 years.
We just celebrated 8 years this summer.
Yeah, you did.
Congratulations,
Come on.
guys. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, 8 years this summer, 10 years
Nope, 12 years together.
dating. No,
12 years together.
yeah,
Okay,
12
so
years
look what-
together, but
Look
we're
what's happening. We are literally the same
12,
person.
12 years together.
Because I never know the dates.
12 years together, but
We started dating 6 months after we were being friends.
it wasn't 6 months. Was it 6 months after?
Yes, because we met in March of 2010 and we started dating in
She
September.
was on my body. She was 6 months old.
I was not on
she
your
knows
body.
the
on my
dates.
body.
No,
bro.
Listen, I saw
sir.
something pop up in my calendar the other day that said date-iversary. I was like, what is a date-iversary? It's the anniversary when we started dating. I was like, you remember that?
No, I calendared it. I
Exactly.
don't remember it.
Well, it's easy for us because ours is Memorial. No, not Memorial Day.
Labor Day
Labor Day.
of 2010. Because
Yeah,
Labor
ours
Day,
is-
we found out Labor Day
that would mix
changes
me
every
up.
year.
That would mix me up.
Isn't that an easy mix-up?
That's an easy mix-up.
Labor
Because
Day.
you're in the pool for both of them.
That was when we officially started dating, but we met in March 2010, actually at the Camo, downtown Richmond, West Broad Street, at a Tavi Benet concert.
Come on, listen.
And he said I was on his body, but he knew of me first, and he approached me
Okay,
first.
okay.
Go ahead for the record.
okay.
For the record.
Okay.
He's dropping. I knew he was gonna drop it.
That's a bomb right there.
Love it. Okay, so married 8 years.
Yes.
Yep.
Been working together over a decade.
Yes.
Yes.
Started your business. You said about 6, 7
On
years
paper,
ago.
6 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
About 6 years ago on paper.
Cool.
And then 2
So-
years ago, we did a rebrand. So some people, if they are familiar with us, they probably know Medium PR agency, but we switched it to Medium Creative Agency because we started doing way more than public relations. So
Yeah,
we
right
just like,
after
we
Z
need
was
something
born.
a little bit more fitting than just PR because we do a lot more than that.
So that's what I was going to ask you. For someone who, when you say creative agency, if they're like clueless, right? Like, what is that? What is that? Like, what are some of the services you offer? What are some of the, like, what does that look like?
So Q's specialty is public relations, and then my specialty I've brought on board recently is marketing. But pretty much Q does a lot more than just public relations. So we ended up tapping into just making it to creative agency instead of just public relations agency.
Right.
So we basically have our hands involved in the entertainment industry. That's what we do. But we also work with any type of client that comes to us and is willing to do the work.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. I
love that.
That is a game changer there.
Yes.
Willing to do the work.
So
Yeah.
Willing to
we can
do
do
the work.
things as small as
Press release.
press release. You know, if you need photos, electronic press kit, a one sheet, DJ service pack. Like we can do something as small as that. We can do things as big as real big campaigns. Like I did which now that I'm looking at it, when I re-looked at it, we did like a branding campaign for an artist that I work with. He actually just his song "Energy" just got added to Madden soundtrack. It's my boy Cam Wallace. He's from Houston, Texas. But shout out my boy Sean Barron. He is an exec over at Motown Capital. And shout out my boy Roger for connecting me with Sean. But I was working with Sean for Motown for the last year. So that record Energy that's now on Madden, we just got the announcement.
Yeah.
He came to me and told me how special the record was because it was one of the records that he made prior to getting signed.
Yeah.
That he really wanted to get out there, but we had to have the right momentum. So we took that record and I worked it, and I think we did Billboard, we did Fader. I even got the record on Ero's Apple Music show where it was featured. So it was a big moment for me for the song to get added to Madden because
That's huge,
we
man.
worked hard,
That's
for
huge.
that to happen. So, but yeah, those are the type of things we do. So we do that was more of like a branding thing. And then there's situations where, I might work with somebody strictly on actually breaking. That's really my specialty. That's really what I love to do is I like to take artists who people don't know and really, make sure that I seed it out to the right people.
Right.
So one of our big clients, which kind of anchored the company, was Designer,
Yeah.
Come on.
right?
Yeah.
And this was in the midst of course, Kanye, this is the good music signing,
Yeah.
It was really personal because Pusha's the actual person that signed him. I'll probably speak a little bit more how I worked with Pusha and, got to work with him and do stuff with him. But so that was huge for us. And yeah, so that's kind of how people know us. Like we are known for breaking artists. Like I got to work early with him. I got to work early with Juice World. Got to work early with Bia. Got to work. I mean, pretty much anybody who you probably hearing now.
Yeah.
At some point, me or Sabrina have worked with them. Whether Sabrina photographed them.
I was just gonna say, yes.
Yeah,
Come
so
on.
I'm more of behind the scenes.
Yes.
Q is like the face and the voice.
No, it's changing now though. That's how it was at
It
first.
is changing, yeah.
But it's transitioning now.
Yeah, it is definitely changing. But for me, my biggest things through the company or the agency was I got to shoot for the Bad Boy Reunion tour when I was working with the Locks, and got to shoot Jadakiss during his tour. I got to take photos during the St. Pablo tour, different things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm like the one behind the scenes and like doing the connections in the background. But like you said, that's switching up to where I'm now showing my face more and I'm teaching people.
Yeah. Come on.
So our listeners know you guys are parents
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
too.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes, we have a 3-year-old beautiful little girl, 3 going on 30.
Yeah, man. We know about that.
Zanif.
Yep.
We call her Z. Yeah, and she kind of switched up our whole. Well, I could say me. She switched up a lot of things for me. Like I understood what it was to be a parent in theory. I have a twin sister and I got a little brother. But I always was kind of like, my role was always like big brother, even though I have a twin sister, like always. But until we had Z, I call my mom and my dad all the time and be like, I get it, man.
Yeah.
There's so many things I just didn't get.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense now.
Oh yeah.
And it's really creepy just watching her because I'm like, that was me.
Yeah. Okay. So let's for a second, real quick, if you don't mind. So like you guys obviously have your creative agency.
Right.
Yeah.
I know Sabrina, it's funny. So the connection with us was years back when our church was doing, it was an element for really a push for small groups, people getting into community. And you guys will recall, so they had asked one of my friends to be, I guess you could say an actress role, like to kind of just show different like seasons in life and why there's a group for everybody. So long story short, my friend was portraying the very busy like businesswoman, like mom, working. And so we actually used your guys' office, your working space back in, was it Arlington?
Oh,
or where was
City.
it at?
Crystal City.
Crystal
It
City,
wasn't
that's
Arlington,
right.
Crystal
That was
City,
your guys'
Arlington.
place.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That was
so,
our office.
Wesley was the one that
even know
set that up.
yep.
Yeah.
So how I ended up there is
I didn't even know that.
because I voluntold my friend to be in the video. She said, you're coming with me. So I kind of just went to make sure she felt at ease. And it was something she like Sabrina back then, did not want to be in front of the camera. And I'm that person. I like to push people out and make them realize that you better go get seen. So I met Sabrina that night because while they were recording, she and I were just kind of standing around and we talked about what it was like to be in a, biracial couple. And then we had our boys already at the time. And Sabrina asked lots of questions like, hey, tell me what it's like to raise mixed kids. And we quickly realized we were on that gluten-free, dairy-free. I'll never forget.
That's when you guys linked up.
Listen,
Oh yeah, day one.
Oh
That
yeah,
was the
Day
beginning.
one.
That was
we
the
talked
beginning.
for hours. Like at one point we were in the building. Then at next thing we were like out on the street walking, and we were.
It was
just,
like midnight or something.
Oh yeah, we were just.
Q texted me. He's like,
she
"Where are you?"
introduced me- she introduced me to siete tortillas. Like, listen, this girl. So we were
thanks
like,
a lot.
that was it. That was
Now
it.
I haven't had a regular tortilla
That's
in
right.
my house in
That
years.
is a regular tortilla.
Listen,
What are you
it was
talking
a
about?
very good tortilla. So we just like instantly connected. And honestly, it was kind of one of those things where it was like, man, like that was like way cool because again, I as a Latina and just the lifestyle and married to a Black man, there weren't really at that point, really, there wasn't anybody since I moved from Miami to Virginia that I had a conversation like that with.
Oh wow!
And so,
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
like I was like, oh my gosh, someone who gets me. And so we had this conversation. It was kind of like all right, well, that's cool. You're cool. Like maybe we'll see each other sometime. And then it was just like, that was it.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, you have your daughter and it was crazy. Like we, again, connected at church and, but then fast forward again, we again reunite. But this time I feel like third time's a charm, like for real, with our online business, which is another thing that you do.
Yeah.
Which is our online business with like, self-care and vegan products. And so really through that, like I've gotten to really know Sabrina, which I adore. And then of course, like we I don't know. I feel like we kind of are responsible for your move to Richmond somehow. I know the
We're
Lord.
taking credit.
I know the Lord told you guys.
Your
and you
prayer
prayed
was
about
definitely
it,
at the top of the list.
The
Listen,
prayers of the righteous.
as soon as I
are
like
powerful and
somebody,
effective.
I'm like, y'all need to just move
You need
here
to live
already.
near us. Absolutely.
So now we're living here, and yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of like things with what you guys do that I don't know, we just feel like every time we connect, we learn from you and we ask questions. And so talk about the parenting thing, because here's the thing, you guys work a business primarily from home.
Oh, yeah.
And you have a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Who's home. So like maybe for someone listening, we did an episode with another creative couple. And one of the things we talked about was like not using the excuse that like once you start having kids, you've got to just like kill all your dreams and all the creativity, because our kids should never be an obstacle to doing what you know that God created you to do. So what does a typical day look like in the Holder home when you're working all these businesses and working your business, raising your daughter? I was just curious, how do y'all do it?
By the grace of
Yeah, I was
God.
about to say, do we do it? How do we do it? I don't know.
I
We're trying to figure that out now.
I don't know.
I would say, first and foremost, and this is kind of how the flow was anyway. It was a little different when I was quote unquote outside, when I was traveling more and doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it was different. Cause now what it really is since we moved to Richmond is, I would say 50% of the time I'll go to sleep a little later, but Sabrina always gets up earlier, but it's because of Z.
Mm-hmm.
She would get up earlier.
Not by choice.
She would get up earlier anyway, if you know what I mean. If we had moved to Richmond, just probably to try to, whether it's working out or prayer or devotion or whatever,
Clean up, yeah.
clean up, whatever. Like she'll get up earlier anyway. But that's really what it looks like. Like I'll probably be asleep around 7, 8.
This
or
is
whatever.
real.
Sabrina, Z will probably pop in the room because her room is on the other side of where we live at.
Yep.
And then Z will pop in and kind of wait till Sabrina gets up, but not really. And then she'll start being like, pointing to her mouth and all this, means she's hungry and all this. I'll just be like, I'm like half sleep, half inside out. And then Sabrina will like kind of see me and she'll be like, come on now, let's let daddy sleep, whatever.
She's
And
so kind. Wow.
She'll make.
Never said those words.
Yeah, she's really
That's
good.
not true. You have.
Yeah, she good. She good at that. She good at that. So she was like, yeah, let's let daddy sleep or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'll just kind of like pop right in. She'll make her, make Z breakfast, make herself breakfast, make me breakfast or whatever. She'll normally set Z up with some type of educational whatever. And then she'll get to work, right? And then I'll probably wake up a couple hours later. And we just try to like every once in a while between the day, we'll try to.
Someone's trying to break in.
We'll tag team.
We'll tag.
As you can hear her right now.
Yeah.
We'll try to just, do something with her, have a break in monotony, because we might be like emails, we might be conference calls, we might be consultations, whatever it is. Then, after we pretty much wrapped up our work day, we eat dinner, and then we try to play with her together, do something, And normally, Sabrina always puts her to bed, but what she does is, after that, she'll say, I want daddy. So then she wants me to come like lay with her or whatever. And then I'll do that and probably fall asleep for like 20 minutes. And by the time I come out, Sabrina's Everybody Hates Raymond or something like that's on.
Yeah.
And then we watch whatever shows that we watch together. And that's a typical day.
Yeah.
And we've gotten way better with being intentional with the dinners and spending time and all these other things. Like we've gotten super, super intentional.
Yeah.
You said you've gotten more. We stopped where you're saying like you're gotten more intentional.
Yeah, I gotten way more intentional. Like I'll be fully transparent. Like so we have very different stages of our lives, but we've learned more that these stages are very much you need to completely regroup and completely take whatever ideas you had before about what it would be into now. Because like I said, right now I'm in a place where it's been very different for me because up until the pandemic, a lot of who I am is an outside person. It's a lot of traveling. It's a lot of shaking hands.
Yeah.
It's a lot of going to labels, going to studios, that's a lot of how I, because out of sight, out of mind, especially in the industry that we're in. There's a million people that do the same things you do at the level that you do it at.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's just about who thinks about you
Yeah.
to get the business.
Yeah.
Because there's always, 10, 20, 30 people who can do it. Especially because we don't live in LA, New York. I mean, we were in
Miami.
We were in DC, so that's our major market, right?
Right.
But if we being fully transparent, for me, where the money really is, if it ain't New York, LA, or Atlanta, for real,
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
checks and certain things, it's not happening in order to live a certain lifestyle to be profitable in your business. If you're not getting business from those places, so it was so different, and that's why I say this phase of my life, I'm learning to adapt to it, and that's why I said I'm being very intentional now. Sabrina's been telling me, for a while, for years, she wants me to be more intentional, and I've made smaller steps.
Sure.
Yeah.
But until we really had to slow down, and specifically until we moved here, I feel like I've gotten a lot more intentional. And because of that, Sabrina gives me a lot more grace. So like you said, like she'll let me sleep a little longer, do this or whatever. Or even if like I'm eating, but I might not be right at the table, I might be like sitting over here, she won't trip. You know what I mean? She'll be like, you know what, Daddy, just let, G be like, oh, Daddy's not sitting at the table. So, well, it might be a little more comfortable for Daddy, or he might be finishing something else up. But I'm still there. You know what I mean? Like in the presence. But yeah, this stage is this stage of my life is very much about being intentional, because before Z, my main thing was build the brand, build the business. And Sabrina's main thing was take care of me. So once Z was here, her main thing is still take care of me. But Z, especially when she was, younger, is the top priority, right? But what I do when the time frame that we would spend together is lessened is I just work more.
Good,
That's why I use the word intentional.
Yeah.
You come home and the husband's like, yo, it's certain time, I'm ready to eat dinner, XYZ, right?
That is not cute.
I'm not like that. Like I'm very like, I don't know. And I think it has a lot to do with the way that when we started dating when we were friends. I've always been very independent, and so has she.
Yeah.
So what happens is that independence becomes our grace and our covering with traditional things. Sabrina can pop up. I don't care if dinner is supposed to be at 7. She can pop up at 6:59 and be like, I don't feel like cooking dinner. I'm like, all right. And I'm either going to make something or go get something. I don't care. I'm not that way.
Yeah.
Majority of the time, I just put a lot of the pressure on myself.
Well, that goes
Yeah.
back to, like I said, that's the thing that I think is so unique about us, is that no matter what, we try to make sure that we can work with each other the best way. But for Sabrina, I think her biggest thing is she was told for so long that you have to do things like this to quote unquote keep a man or keep him happy, that she start trying to live that out. And I'm like, every relationship is different. Like a lot of stuff that she thought she had to do, I don't care about.
That right there is complete freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it can become a prison if you feel like you have to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And even when, for a transparent moment, when I was on tour with Designer, which ended up leading into me being away for other artists too, but he was the one that was the longest and normally out of the country or something like that.
This is around 2.5 years after we've been married.
Yes. And we moved.
We were in Alexandria.
We're in
when
Alexandria.
You started tour managing.
And I go away. I think I went to Europe. I think we were in Europe this time.
And I was still working at SiriusXM Radio in DC.
That's important to mention.
Yeah.
And tour's going fine, whatever. And I think I'm a week in, right? Or 2 weeks in at this point, right? It was almost about to go on maybe 3, right?
Yeah.
Right. 2.5, 3. And it's the longest we've ever been apart.
This was before Freedom.
Wow.
Before Freedom.
Come on.
And Sabrina just calls me and she just straight up is like, hey, I miss you, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this. Not marriage. All right, let me be clear. She didn't say
The long distance.
yeah, she didn't mean that.
Yeah.
She was talking about
Yeah.
She was talking about me being away, and I was just kind of like,
It was whack.
I was like, well, I was like, this is how we make money. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I was like, I have to kind of make these connections. I was like, for to line things up for the future. That's why I said a lot of my brand and who I was about being outside. Even before I was quote unquote in the industry, when Sabrina met me, which was cool. The way that we met was because shout out to my boy B Free, Brian Freeman, who's my business partner. He's also well-known published photographer out in LA. He is the reason why me and him specifically, but me and him are the reason why Sabrina decided to go back to school, which was Old Dominion University. She had dropped out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So when she went back to school, of course, you got to remember this is the 757 area. This is where I grew up. This is my stomping ground.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, I wasn't in college. I was a community college dropout, but I knew everybody everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been like that since I was like a sophomore in high school. Like, I've always been like that. So it got to the point to where Sabrina got to see me and be like, yo, Q is really like in his element everywhere. How does he know all of these people? Like, and it was different from her too, because that's another thing about why I didn't really like moving so much.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sabrina's military brat, so she's used to
Just
changes
all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
For me, I know I know where that corner store is. I know that crackhead down the street.
Yeah.
I know everything.
Yeah.
Come on.
Like,
I was the
I'm
new
saying,
kid
like,
every 2-3 years.
Yeah.
this is my life. Like, I can tell you, and people know me, and they can tell you about me. They know all my nicknames, all this other crazy stuff. Like, so when that happens in my mind, I'm thinking, well, Sabrina knows me. She knows this is what I do. But it was devastating, though. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, I have to be transparent, too, because this stuff, that's why it was a blow. Because that was straight amount of time, but I was also co-managing IDK and a few other artists.
It was one thing after another.
That's what I was about to, now I'm thinking about it now.
We're less than 3 years in our marriage. He went from managing this artist that he met at a sneaker store I used to do social media management for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Poured in a lot of time and money into him in the beginning of our marriage.
Yeah.
And then tour managing for designer literally right after that, around the same time as that, and investing a lot of time into that.
Yeah.
And so when I tell you the first 3 years of our marriage was tough, it was tough.
Well, what was that like for you when you described that?
Well, for me, I came into the marriage dealing with a lot of insecurities and childhood things I never dealt with.
Sure.
But because I didn't know this until recently, I struggled tremendously with pride. And so I never admitted that. So I always try to deflect it on Q or everybody else around me. And so when Q wasn't around, I had to sit in my thoughts.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that until literally maybe about a year or two ago, where I'm learning more about myself more and more and giving it to God.
Yeah.
But doing that and then being in an industry that, yes, it's very dark and heavy at times. When you're not grounded, of course, you're probably going to be tormented or you're going to be doing the tormenting. So when he wasn't there, I didn't know how to deal with it. I just had like this chaos going on inside of me. It was very, very annoying. All it was me and my dog, Tabby.
Oh, Tabby.
Tabby.
Yeah, so like it was just like the first 3 years was tough because I had to learn more about myself, but I was trying to deflect it more on him. And his whole thing was like, this is who I've been. You know me. You know I'm doing work. I'm not just running around in the industry.
Yeah.
So that was how it was for me.
So that was then.
Yeah.
And then obviously we kind of got there because we were talking about now your parents, right? So like, obviously you guys were so grateful you all survived those 3 years and you're still, we said 8 years and forever to go married.
Yes.
Right.
So you have a daughter now and it's different. So what I'm hearing from you, Q, is like, I'm hearing like there's not as much traveling, like a little, is it,
Well,
what is it like now?
It stopped altogether. The first thing, the first real thing that I did was Grammys 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, that was literally right when they had just started making announcements of some type of virus breaking out.
Yeah, that was that. So the next,
and right when Kobe passed away too, right? And
Yeah.
then,
All the same.
yes,
Early
Yeah.
part.
yeah. So that was that was the first real thing that I had did. That's how long it had been. And prior to that, like Sabrina's saying, like, I mean, I'm glad that we're having this conversation because I didn't think about it like that.
I didn't think about it either.
I was
until
pretty
this-
much I was pretty much gone. And even if it wasn't a long trip, even if it was just New York, but I'm not thinking. I mean, New York 2-3 times a week. And you gotta remember, like I said, Sabrina's working at, that was another thing too. She was working at SiriusXM. She was working at Sports Zone and SiriusXM, and then she got the full time at SiriusXM. But again, I wasn't looking at it from her point of view. In my mind, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I'm like, low key, I'm out of her way. She can focus even more on radio, photography, whatever she wants to do. I didn't know, but she's not that type of person though.
Right.
I didn't know that. I thought it was helping. Right? And don't get it twisted. Like when I'm out on the road and stuff, like I'm thinking about her. Like we're newly married. This is my wife and we're best friends. So of course I'm thinking about her, but I also know how to turn off and go, it's for the future. Because that's something that's a lot about me. Like one of the big things about me, even as a kid, and my parents will tell you, I always thought about my future. I was always talking about, when I'm older, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to do this and that. Not really knowing exactly what I was going to do, but I always was very much like, I have to make decisions now. Yeah. And a lot of that came from, and this is no diss, love all my friends, but like when I was coming up, it was very mixed. It was very much, I always tell people like, I was like Kendrick. I was literally like, my life is like Kendrick Lamar. I'm literally good kid in a mad city.
Yeah.
Come on.
We talked about this standing on a curb in downtown Fredericksburg one time, and we were having Mellow Mushroom the last time.
Yeah, we were having Mellow Mushroom the last time.
We had this conversation.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, and we had the minivans too. Yes. I had one and he had one.
And that was even funny. We had the minivan, but that's...
And we also had dairy-free ice cream that night, and we did not have that tonight.
No.
So I don't know.
Yeah. I'm definitely getting one of those gluten-free cupcakes later, though. I don't even like gluten-free stuff.
No, so that so that was the whole thing. So So for me, I always was thinking about, like, I'm just fully transparent. Like, we got people dying, we got people going to jail, we got people having kids early. We got all type of crazy things happening, right? Virginia really started it felt like because and this sounds bad, but because of the way the music culture was going and they were highlighting gang culture. Yeah. Because like gang culture, like really being on the records and on the East Coast is new. Yeah. It's new. Yeah. And when I say new, even if it's 20 years, it's new.
Yeah, absolutely.
LA was very much from the jump. Yeah. But us, so it started trickling down. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So it started to get kind of crazy, but I always was able to not be in the mix. I was always the person that was able to be like, Switzerland. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, neutral. I don't care if you were the toughest guy in the world, you were like, Q, that's my man. If you were the weirdest guy in the world, you're like, Q, he's a nice guy. That's my man. Yeah. If you were gay, if you were whatever, I was always somebody that was interested in meeting people that were different than me. And we spoke about this earlier too.
Yeah, we did.
I like people that are different than me.
Come on.
And I think that was also something that made me stand out even from like my dynamic in my family. Yeah. Was I always was like, what is life? Like, I don't know. I was always real imaginative. And I used to be like, what if I wasn't me? And what if my parents didn't move us from New York and they would have stayed in? Who would I be? Would I be 50 Cent? Would I be Boo Boo? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know who I would be. Like, so I'm saying all that to say, like, I've always been like that type of person. So in my mind, when we're doing whatever we're doing, and I'm traveling and different things, like you said, to transition into parenthood, there were a lot of things, and I can apologize now. I wasn't looking at it like that.
Well, it's funny. It's funny too because I'm thinking about it a little bit more. It was also hard for me because when you would be on tour, remember what I was doing when you were on tour? I was shooting at the Bad Boy tour, and I was doing a lot of other shoots, and being a woman in the music industry, especially a white woman in hip hop, I can only do so much on my own independently without having to compromise certain things. Yeah. So when Q wasn't with me a lot of times with those opportunities, I could only do so much. Right. And so I always felt like, well, he wants me to do my thing, but I really can't because I'm going to be putting myself in situations that is not going to be comfortable and not in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's talk about that. Yeah. Because I think that's one of the things, again, that really we feel sets you apart. Yeah. So you're saying like, you've always embraced different, right? But here's the thing. You've always been you. Yeah. And you're even saying you had opportunities that you knew if you wanted to like get the fullness of that opportunity, there were some compromises. So like, let's talk about that. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say, because you're believers, you're Christians, and there's probably been moments in the industry where, you had to either say, look, I don't feel like I'm going to be robbed of opportunity because I stand by my faith, but maybe someone listening is wanting to get into that industry and is a believer, like, what would you say to them? Like, I think that sometimes you hear that, like me from the outside, I'm ignorant. I'm not in your world. I don't know enough to pretend like I know what that's like. But I have heard from people say like, oh, when you're in that industry, man, the only way you really can go to the top is if you like just kind of sell your soul to the devil. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, straight up, right? You hear this.
I mean, and to an extent, you know, it's true. I'll say this though, like, I think the biggest misconception when it comes to the industry or the top is what does that mean and what does it look like to you?
Yeah.
Like, what's the top to you?
Right.
Like, is the top like you live in a mansion and you have a jet and whatever? Like, if that's the top, I mean, whatever. But I think the thing that people are that really confused about is the music. And I'm a publicist, so I can tell you this: the music is all about what's front facing.
Sure.
Average people with average jobs, similar to drug dealers, they make more money than a lot of people that are in the industry or about the same money. This is a misconception that this is why people feel like they want to get in the industry because they think it's a get rich quick scheme.
Right. Talk about it.
So what happens is they don't actually have passion for it. They're literally like, yo, and don't get it twisted. Hey, if you use music to get out of your situation, especially if you're like bad neighborhood, you know, bad influences, I'm all for it. I actually love those type of kids because it's very easy to do business with them because I tell them you need to do this so you can get out of the projects or take care of your family. We don't have to go back and forth because that's literally their goal, right? So I have no problem with that. But what I'm saying is a lot of people, especially when you're younger and you're looking into this, the first thing they go is, nah, I want to do this because I want to be able to, you know, take these type of vacations and have this type of jewelry or, you know, get this type of bag or people or even just have, you know, this thing. And I just want to say like right now, like I said, about 90% of the people that are in the music industry make the same amount of money you probably make at your job or less.
Yeah.
That's
right?
actually insightful for me to know.
And that's true, man. And, you know, there's so much imagery that's put forth that's you're selling this idea. And, you know, I think if somebody in entertainment can, you know, live a life and in a reasonable means, you know, what does it really mean to make it? There was this incredible quote from Dave Chappelle that I heard when he was doing one of the interviews that he had done. I think it might have been inside the actor's studio. And the guy who was interviewing him said, was talking to him about like, you know, his dad. And he told his dad when he graduated high school that he wanted to be a comedian.
Right.
And his dad said, I don't know if you should do that. It's really hard to make it. His dad, so Dave said to his dad, he says, well, it all depends on what you think of making it means. He said to his dad, he said, you're a school teacher and you make about $70,000 a year or something like that.
I mean, that's a nice...
Or 60, whatever it is.
I know.
And he says...
Especially then.
I was going to say, because
whatever it was. So, and he said, if I can make $70,000 a year doing comedy, I think I've made it.
I love that.
And a lot of people will get this thing in their mind of like, I got to have a jet and I got to be driving a foreign.
Drip,
and
you got to have that drip.
I got, you know, I got diamonds embedded in my forehead and, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's real though. Real though.
You know, I got I've got a Birkin and Jacob has me on speed dial and there's this idea of this millions and millions and millions and millions when a lot of these guys are renting these things for videos.
Oh yeah, renting Airbnbs.
Let's take it a step further. Not just renting them for the video. a lot of these things that people have go into the facade. So it goes into like they're friends with stylists. So stylists come give them pieces and they wear them and they take pictures and then they take them back
to the stylist. Yeah.
Like, right. So like you said, like it had gone so far, like some of it is not even renting. Some of it is a relationship just for the gram. So you do this enough, then I might give you, it's like you do this for 6 months and I'll give you this Rolex.
Yeah.
But I need you to wear this Rolex, this Patek,
tag this person.
Tag this, be like, you know, whatever, so you can bring me That's a lot of what the business, a lot of it is bartering, a lot is, because like I tell people all the time, only people that's really making the real money are a lot of old money industry execs who've been making money because their father owned this record label and his father had a piece of this record label. So those are the only people that's really making real money. Even some of these execs, again, like I said, and it's no shade.
No.
Because everything's not about money.
Right.
But but the reason why I'm bringing that up, and you said it, and you hit it on the head, is what do you think success is? I've been in multiple interviews, and the one thing I always tell people is to your point, there's certain things, accolades, awards, recognition that I won't get because I won't bend on my faith in who I am, right?
Yeah. And speaking to that, man, that I want you to talk about that a little bit more. I want you to dig into that because I think there's probably a lot of people, kind of to what Lauren was saying earlier, that there's things that either opportunities are not afforded or your morals, compromising your morals is just a non-negotiable. But there's like, for you guys, like, what is it like? Maybe I don't know if anybody's ever said this to you, but it's like, it's just probably impossible to be a believer in the industry or to keep your faith when you're working in the industry. Because, listen, I'm a local church guy. And I'm
downplaying. Local church guy.
No, seriously, man. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm no, for real. But so like people are.
Don't worry, he's got a big head. You don't need to.
Local church. All right.
Listen.
Humble brag.
Easy. Worldwide. No, just playing. No, but seriously though, that kind of image for people is probably like either super attractive. But then, like, there's people who will speak negatively about any believer that's connected to the entertainment industry.
So yes, and I'm glad you said that. And because like even as you were dropping some of the artists that you did photography for and some of the artists you represent, I can guarantee you there are gonna be some people listening.
They're listening to this podcast right now.
Whoa, I thought this was a Christian.
Well, fun fact.
So like, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So fun fact, I actually worked for a Christian hip hop label, Derek Miner. He's the co-owner of it.
Yeah.
I've worked in the Christian hip hop scene.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
It's really no different in the secular scene. I just want anybody who's listening to this is very true. Like, there's been a lot of scandals and stuff that goes on in the Christian side of things and the gospel side of things. So just putting that out there.
But that goes back to what Burst
Just
was
as
talking
dark.
about. We're talking it's like supremacy. So I'm gonna answer this question in the best way, in a simple way, and then I can expand on it.
Yeah.
The reason why people think that you can't be in the music industry and still love God or be a real believer is because they don't know God. So anybody that feels like that right now,
Dropped the bomb.
you don't know God. You clearly haven't read the Bible.
Yo.
Because where was Jesus hanging at?
That's a
Yes,
fact.
listen. Yeah.
Where was he?
I knew.
Even his disciples.
I knew
Listen.
Like, what we
It's a
talking?
He
fact.
was with the drunkards.
Come on.
And the prostitutes.
Come on.
Yeah, he was with the video girls. You know what I'm saying?
Love them alone. Yeah, Jesus loved the little video
He
vixen.
was with the Fashion Nova models.
Always.
Listen. No, I mean, what you just said right there, that's it.
And let me take it a step further. So first off, you don't know him, right? Because here's the funny part. The reason why those people are saying that is because they're not being challenged enough. So what they want to do is a lot of people hide in church.
Ooh.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Ooh,
Right?
you better preach it, sir.
Because if they were out where I'm at, people wouldn't know that they were believers. That's the difference between me and other people. See, when I'm out, I could be in the craziest, grimiest, wherever, and the Spirit of God always shows off.
Ooh.
People always see it because I'm always like,
Go ahead.
man, God is good. Or I'm talking about my wife, or I'm talking about this experience or that, or whatever. And I'm comfortable to do it because, Lauren said it earlier, I've been comfortable being me, like I said, since I was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
I know myself a lot. I'm 32 years old now. Like, I know myself.
Yeah.
That's the blessing of me and Sabrina get married younger and us coming together.
Yeah.
Because when I went out on the road, I wasn't no teeny bopper.
Yeah.
When I went out on the road, I had experienced a lot of life, did a lot of things.
Yeah.
So when I got there, a lot of this stuff, it wasn't impressive.
Yeah.
Nope.
Seen all the women, all the guys who think they cool, like all this stuff, like, you know, people don't want me to get really like, cause I'm like, and the reason why I have like that little bit of air is because I was the dude that was able to always have fun and I didn't need money.
Yeah.
So now when I get in spaces, I can know if you really cool or not. Yeah. Because all you have is money. If I took it away, who are you?
Yeah.
I mean,
you don't have an
drop
identity.
another bomb.
You don't have an identity, right?
Yeah.
And I want to expand a little bit when I say
if
you
I
don't know
took
Jesus.
away the money, who are
the
you?
same people who say, how can I work in a secular industry? How can you work at your job?
That's true.
That's a
if
fact.
you don't work at a church, everywhere else you work, the people that are at the top,
even if you work at a church,
even if you look, I'm trying to keep it nice, right? That ain't my lane, right? I don't work at a church. I don't work at a church, so I'm not gonna speak on that part. But what I will say is, if you work at anywhere,
no, it's
Target,
a fact.
this, that, whatever, your higher up authorities are doing a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't align with the Bible. Even in the government right now, it's happening.
I mean, listen, I know a lot of people personally that they claim to be real Christ followers, but when you ask them if they've ever talked to any of their coworkers about Christ or shared Christ's love to them, they can't answer my question.
And so if you ask the question, let's re-ask the question.
It is.
How can I work in this industry?
Yeah, come on.
You need to ask yourself that every time you look at your paycheck, and go do your research on your company, no matter what company you work at. Yeah. And go say, who's the higher ups? Because y'all know only about 10 people, and then maybe like 25, 50 people in the world, like run the whole world. So if you really want to break it down like that, and you ask me, how do I do it? How do you do it?
That's a great question.
How do you do it? And the funny part is you're going to say, well, you in that world, but you're in that world every day. I was talking to my pops. He worked in the medical field at Centera Hospital for a long time. I don't even want to say how long. It's been a long time, like almost as long as I've been alive. Yeah. Right. And me and him had a conversation, and I was like, Dad, it's so funny. I said, because my dad was also a chaplain. I said, it's so funny. I said, I know people be saying all the time, secular this, secular that. I said, Dad, you've seen some of the craziest stuff ever happen. I was like, and you still get up and go to work every day. And and I was like, not get too crazy, but it's like, when they put this drug out or did this. I'm like, and so much, he'll come home and be like, hey, y'all, them Benadryl H3Cs, we're not taking them tonight. Don't do it. And I'm like, what you mean, Pop? You're like, you'll see. Yeah. But I'm just saying, just the idea of it's elitism. Yeah. Elitism gives you that idea that I'm a better person than you because I'm not, quote unquote, aligned, but you are aligned. You're already aligned because you can't completely do anything that's just pure. Yeah. Everything that we do, from every transaction, from us going to get something to eat, to us shopping, to us going anywhere, who owns that store? Who owns that company? You don't know.
Yeah.
No. That's a fact.
If it ain't Chick-fil-A, you don't know. And then we know what we know. And y'all know I love but then we know what we know about Chick-fil-A.
I mean, let's talk about where majority of Christian music is distributed through. The secular record labels that you all talk about.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. They all got a gospel wing.
RCA has a huge gospel wing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They all have a gospel wing.
All of them.
You know
Capital
what I mean? So
music.
So again, you asked that question. Yeah,
I used to have my stuff distributed by Capital Music. So shout out to you guys.
Local church guy. Local church guy.
I love Capital. I love Motown. But to answer that question again, so people get it, if you're asking how is it or how do I do it, again, you don't know God. And it's okay, but you got to be honest with yourself, because if you knew him, then you would know that everywhere I go, you know what I mean, that's how we roll, so it don't matter.
So good. Man, that just blew my mind. So tell me about a time that maybe like you guys either like experienced like either helping somebody understand that, or the time where that idea that like, listen, it's not about me, it's not about like this industry, or I can't keep my faith in here. Like, when did that become real for you? Or like, tell me about a time where that kind of like came alive for you guys.
Yeah. So Q and I actually got asked to speak at a HBCU in Maryland, and we met a kid there, and he just wanted some guidance from us. He was a singer. I think he still sings, but he was really torn with figuring out whether or not he wanted to be in the industry or not. And so the more we talked to him, he was just like, you know, he wanted to do some work in the industry, but the church was telling him that it was too dark for him. It was too evil. He shouldn't do it. And we're like, well, wait, what? So me and Q started talking to him about our experience. And he was like, yeah, I've been watching you guys, and you guys are clearly believers and you walk the talk. He was like, but I still feel like I'm being pulled to not do it. So we basically told him it's more about what's going on with inside you and not necessarily what's going on in the industry. Because the world is evil, point blank, period. It doesn't matter if it's the industry or not, the music industry or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was the one time I remember. Do you remember another time?
That's actually, let me just, do you guys take notes what she said? It's less what's happening in the industry and more what's happening in here.
Well, think about it. The industry is really just reflecting what's going on in the world. It's hurting people that are coming in and they're singing or reciting their songs or performing their songs of things that they've experienced in the past. Or repeating what songwriters have been giving them.
Yeah.
It's not really it's just evil all around.
The funniest part about that particular individual we were talking about is he actually went on to go do an internship.
That's
at
right.
a church, and he was like, Q, you're right. This is exactly like, it's all type of drama. It's all type of...
It's no different.
I said, guess what? I said, because everywhere you go, there's going to be these people... these things called people.
I was just saying the common denominator in all things is people.
And so it's not
talk about
it's not so much that the industry is dark, it's the hearts of people are dark.
We were born into sin. What are we talking about? Like,
absolutely.
Because even to be able to create music, I could not say that. Music is a gift from God. But as usual, human beings will pervert things.
Yeah.
So that's why we're trying to tell him, like, don't focus so much on what's going on in the industry and what church folk who don't really know what they're talking about, they've never been in the industry before, focus on why you have such a hesitation, and then consult with God if that is where he wants you to go. Because if you are grounded, he'll let you go there.
Absolutely.
And I remember me and this particular individual had a man-to-man talk. He was like, yo, Q, how do you deal with, this and that? And he was coming from the perspective of like, yo, I'm not married. I'm single.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Ready
like,
to mingle.
When we was speaking at the school, we could tell he's one of them guys that the girls be like,
yeah.
He the one.
Yeah.
And he kept it 100 when he was like, Q, I'm practicing. He was like, yo, I don't have premarital sex. Like I'm doing this and that. But he was like, I'm getting to a point to where the older I get, I have more freedom. I have it's becoming harder. And I was like, and I told him, I said, he was like, so for those reasons, I think I shouldn't be. I said, let me tell you something, bro. I said, well, you have a calling on your life. I said, if you're not going to do it just because it's going to be an obstacle.
That's not a good enough reason.
I said, what is the value in what it is that you're doing?
Yeah.
If you're doing anything and it's so easy and you never have an issue and you never have a problem. I said, you know what's dope about you? You know your problem. I said, right now, you know your biggest issue.
Yep.
It's going to be lust.
Yeah.
I said, and I just got to always keep it real. I said, bro, I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I said, no matter what you do, it's going to be in your face. I said, bro, you're in college.
Yeah, absolutely.
I said, no matter what you do, it's going to be in your face. I said, what I want you to do, he was shocked when I said this. I said, what I want you to do, I said, I want you to continue to be in your Bible, be in your word, do your thing. I said, I know you have a relationship with God. I said, but what I also want you to do is not beat yourself up when you make mistakes. I said, because you're going to.
Yeah.
And he was just like, well, Q, what do you mean? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, you're going to. I was like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things that God is not pleased with. You're going to do things that you're not pleased with. I said, just don't make it a habit.
Yeah.
Don't plan them.
Yeah.
Don't plan.
And also,
that's exactly what I said.
Understand what grace really means.
Yeah.
As you guys were talking about that, I was just thinking, literally at church this past Sunday, the whole message was there are 5 things that get in the way of your dreams.
Yes.
And one of them is temptation.
Yep.
Literally,
Yes.
Joseph in the Bible, literally, I love the visual. The pastor said, obviously when the woman came in was was pretty direct. Like, I want you to come in bed with me.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, she didn't ask for a latte. She didn't kind of slide in the DMs. It was straight up, come to bed with me.
Yeah.
And his response was to flee, to run.
Yeah.
And, for a lot of these guys and girls, I mean, we give guys a bad rap, but it's girls too, like
Absolutely.
girls are not not having feelings and also dealing with these things. But I think the thing is temptation. I love what you said. If he didn't pursue music in the industry, he'd be tempted at college.
Yeah.
He'd be tempted wherever he
tempted
goes.
nowhere.
Listen, there is, no matter where you go, there's an opportunity to find temptation
Always.
waiting on you.
There's temptation
Always.
in the church.
Everywhere.
Always.
Everywhere. And so that's huge. And I think about that so much for like a person who's either into industry or considering, man, I want to get a record deal, or I want to become a writer, and I want to be a published songwriter or a producer or a photographer. And there's this fear and anxiety about going into this industry. All the industry necessarily is doing, if I'm hearing you guys right, it's just bigger and louder.
Yeah,
and it's just going to amplify more of who you are. So the people, like Sabrina said, if you have a problem, it's not it's you.
Yeah.
You need to go to God and you need to go deal what you need to deal with. But your environment, don't get it twisted. Now what I'm saying is I wasn't telling that young man to go to the strip club.
Come on.
All right.
Sure.
Because that's a direct.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I am saying is if there's an open mic, you need to go. And if you want to sing gospel music, sing gospel music.
Absolutely.
I'm like, but don't use that as an excuse to not go to karaoke, because that may be how you get discovered.
Yeah.
Don't use that as an excuse. I ain't gonna go to the studio meetup. Why? I don't know, man. None of the people there, they never went to church with me or this or that. I'm like, but isn't that where you want to be? And here's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
If God is in you, people need to stop being worried about how they're going to be influenced. You need to walk in a room.
I was hoping you were going to say this.
Saying,
I was waiting for it.
I'm going to be
I was waiting
the
for
influencer
That's it.
on what's going to happen and how this is going to go.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you aren't coming with that, see, I ain't going to lie.
Yeah.
Like me and Sabrina, like personally, like especially with our families, we in a season right now where we being bold. And a lot of people don't agree.
Yep.
But that boldness, man, now I'm really realizing that's where God gives me my grace and mercy. Because I don't know everything. I made a lot of wrong decisions, but God still rerouted me in the right spot.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was because my boldness I was never scared to say I love God, but to also be a human being and go through the process
That's
and be
That's
a teenager
awesome.
and be
That's
a college
awesome.
student and be a
That's
young
great.
man. I
That's
never had
great.
to choose.
That's
what
great.
I've seen too is that, just like I said, I worked in both industries, secular and Christian. I've seen a lot of people that will leave the secular to go into Christian industry and do music in the Christian hip hop industry, especially, and they still fall and they still fall into temptation and struggle with the similar things that they struggle in the secular industry. Because again, if you are not grounded, when things get bigger and louder, you're going to fall anyway.
Yeah, and everywhere you go, you're there.
Exactly.
And so it doesn't matter if you're going into this industry or to this job.
Exactly.
All those things exist. And I love what you said too about like being the influencer, being the influence in that situation. We were having a conversation about this earlier today before y'all even came over. I just want to predetermine in my life that I'm gonna be the kind of person that doesn't stare into the darkness and call it dark.
Come on.
We know it's dark.
Come on.
When I walk into the darkness, I'm going to shine a light. Because I can either...
He may or may not have been correcting me.
I see it wasn't even
Because I was having a flash and I was a little frustrated, and Perch definitely dropped that bomb.
Listen, it wasn't even...
Today.
No. Well, listen.
But it's good. Say it again. Honestly, I literally will never forget that.
Because it's for me too, because there's so many times where I'm like, this just is going to be difficult, or this is just going to be hard, or these people are just going to be lost. And I can either, it's like the reason why we even moved to Richmond in the first place.
Yeah.
When we moved to Richmond, and we'll one day we'll give like a full on story of that move. But there was a moment years ago before we even moved. So there was this time when we were 2 Januaries ago, we came for an overnight trip in Richmond. And the next morning we were going for like brunch or breakfast. I can't remember how early it was, but we were walking down West Broad Street, and there's a guy in the center median of of Broad Street that's just yelling in our direction. And at first, I'll be honest, I don't have discernment. I have a wife for that reason.
That's what God
So
gave you a
she
wife.
tells me. So I don't notice everything in the moment.
I notice everything.
I notice
Every
things after. I don't have discernment. I think I have I have the gift of interpretation.
Oh, I get what you said.
I can interpret what happened. And I'll tell you why.
But he wasn't paying this guy any mind.
No,
Meanwhile, I
'cause
couldn't stop
he was
hearing
yelling
what he was saying.
and yelling and yelling.
So we were there, and here's the thing too, like it was right in the midst. COVID was still there wasn't really a whole lot of places. That street was empty.
Yeah.
There was really nobody there. A lot of places either were closed or you had to take the food to go.
Yeah.
And so we were walking the street. He was like literally the only other person.
Yeah. And so we're walking down the road. He's in the center median, and he's yelling at us. And he's saying things like, "What you're doing here? You think you can just come up in my city? You think you can just come up in my town?" Yelling. You need to go home.
He said, I remember one thing specifically, and here's the thing too, he was shouting at Birch, not at me. And he kept saying, "You think you can walk free in my city?"
Yeah.
Is what he kept saying. And of course, Birch was like, "What? Stop listening to him. Don't pay attention to him."
I'm like, "Yeah, pay attention to me, girl. Look how good I look." Right? And so we get to this breakfast place. And
which ironically enough, I'll just go ahead and say, because this is the perfect episode, the only place we could find food was a morning daytime brunch bar.
Yeah.
And it was the best brunch we've ever had.
Yeah.
Side
It was
note.
amazing.
Cool.
It was amazing. And so we're leaving brunch, and he's out there again.
He's waiting for us.
Waiting for us. And we're in brunch
He's well
for
dressed.
We're
Didn't look like he was living on the streets.
Yeah, we're in brunch for a while.
Wow.
And so at one point we have to cross the street to get to where we need to go.
Right.
And he is in between of where we're going to
He's
go.
in the median.
And I think I said to Lauren, like, "Hey, you're cool to like walk over there. Like, is this
You
is
said,
this
"Hey,
a problem for you?
if you want, we can go another way."
If you want, we can go in a different direction." And
Right.
she says, "No, I'm not afraid."
Well,
Like,
I felt it like in my spirit, like there was this deposit. And I said to him, I looked at Birch and I said, "I'm not afraid."
yeah.
Like it was almost like I knew we needed to walk towards,
And so we started to walk in his direction.
and he went to the opposite
And
side.
as soon as we
He
walked
could
towards
not
him,
even be near us.
he just walked in the other direction.
I know what you're thinking.
And I had, in the moment, I was just kind of like, "Yeah, bro,
We're
back
just like,
up.
Yeah. no.
Yeah, homie, we know what time it is, bro.
Right.
I'm from Miami, baby. I ain't from Florida. I'm from Miami-Dade County.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?"
In the video.
But it's 2 years later, and it just hit me a couple of months ago of what happened at that moment. And I felt clear as day. A few months ago, the Lord say to me that person represented the darkness inside of the city of Richmond.
I was thinking that.
And the only thing that caused him to retreat was charging right towards him. And if there's any possibility of lighting up the darkness in any situation, you can't go around it. You can't run from it. You have to go straight towards it. And as soon as we began to walk towards him, he fled.
Yep.
And now, obviously, in his particular situation, he's walked away. But the Lord told me clear as day, I want you to understand what you just saw. That and that was the weekend where we sensed a call to move to this city.
And let me tell you, since we said it, it has been one test and trial
After the other.
another.
And it's clear that there's darkness all around us. And
Yeah.
listen, we're not in the entertainment industry, but there's still
Yes.
darkness everywhere. And the only thing that you can do is shine a light.
Yeah.
And so I love that you said that so much, because there is going to be
you
darkness
have to. Here's the thing:
everywhere.
the industry
everywhere.
needs people who know who they are in Christ. Like this is the thing. Like I feel like it's a disservice when, and if you're hearing me and you've said this, please know my heart. I offend on purpose. I'm not going to apologize for offending you. I offend on purpose. We've even been told, like, you're going to put your boys in that school. Like, don't you know, like, what kind of people go to that school? You're going to live in that neighborhood. And I'll tell you, even down to the house we ended up picking, like, we had been shown houses in nice neighborhoods and by the lake and the pool. And then it was like 14 houses later, every single time I was like, it's not the one. It's not the one. And then I remember our realtor drove us to this house, which ironically enough, past the strip club, past the motel, past the casino, which really wasn't any different from growing up in Miami.
Yeah.
I was about to say,
I mean, I grew up
That's kinda like
overseas
Miami.
like that.
When you've spent the last 10 years in like middle of nowhere, Spotsylvania, it was a little bit like, oh, okay, we're going to have these conversations with our boys sooner than we'd like.
And again, we're not like right next to it. We're blocks away.
But
and then there's,
regardless.
tucked away, there's this nice little neighborhood. But it is not in the area that people would anticipate.
We knew before we even stepped foot in this house. We pulled into the driveway, and I remember Birch and I looked at each other and we said, this is it. Here's why. Again, we could have lived in the nice neighborhood 30 minutes away, but God didn't call us to go live there and try to impact the darkness here. He said, I'm going to put you right smack in the middle.
Yep.
And I'm not going to lie. The reason Birch had to remind me to not call the dark and be a light is because today I had a moment where I was like, what did we sign up for? Because it's been really crazy. But again, to draw the parallel to what you guys get to be and what you get to influence and impact in the industry, to the believer listening, we need to stop living in our little Christian country club bubbles.
I mean,
we are
scared.
literally called to go out and be witnesses in the world, in your jobs, in the hospitals,
and
in the
how
schools.
can you do that if you're doing the same monotonous, not really having to do anything type of situation? Hey, newsflash, if you got somebody that's at church, outside of a group, outside of a small group, they know where to go to get God. What are you doing for all the other people in your life every day at your job, that you see when you go to lunch, when you do your Wednesday night, whatever, wings, whatever this, that, whatever. What are you doing to impact people in the world? Because that's why I say you get caught up in this Christianese, you get caught up in this religion, and you start hanging out and doing stuff with people that already know God. That's not your assignment.
Nope.
Your assignment is not that. And that's why I'm saying people got God twisted. They think, okay, God, you done blessed me to this certain point. My life is good. My kid's life is good. I'm good. I go to church every week. Thank you, Jesus.
That's not it.
When you die, God gonna be like, I allowed you and gave you all this stuff so your life could, so you could not have an excuse.
Absolutely.
To not go out here and do exactly what y'all did, which is invite us out or invite people out. You don't have an excuse.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
That boldness, like I said, I'm gonna just keep it 100. Like we in a season, like we coming out of revival. If you not gonna be bold about your faith, why would God be bold about whatever you asking about?
That's it.
A lot of y'all say, "Oh, my marriage, or my job, but you ain't even bold though."
Yeah, that's so good. I'd love to ask you this because when you talk about like the church, listen, and I'm here humbly asking because if you speak to the church or local churches and don't mix words,
right?
Because I want you to know
Something tells me Q's not gonna hold back.
Yeah, you're talking to me, and because there are people of the cloth, if you will, that want to hear this kind of stuff,
right?
And I imagine that there's probably a perception of the church when it comes to how the industry people feel accepted, people feel welcomed. Like, am I gonna be, an artist that's out on tour, whatever, I'm living this lifestyle, but I want to say I hit a moment, I want to give my life to God, and I walk into church, are they going to look at me like I'm crazy? Or like when you're in the industry, in the entertainment industry, for the both of you guys, how does the entertainment industry see the church?
That's a great question.
And how can that get better?
Literally, it's having encounters with people like Q or myself where we're constantly in the behind the scenes or talking to them. Because I've literally heard a lot of conversations when Q didn't think I was listening, because that's the perks of working together in the household. I hear a lot of phone conversations, and I'll hear them sharing their heaviness, their sorrow, all of the things, and I just hear Q uplifting them and speaking God's word over them. And then eventually down the line, we may not hear from them for like months to maybe a year at a time. And they'll tell him, yo, Q, you're the reason why I didn't kill myself.
Wow.
You're the reason why I didn't go through with this. You're the reason why, because you shared that word with me.
Yeah.
And he didn't drag them to the church. He just planted a seed in them.
Yeah.
And now they have this hunger that they never really probably experienced before until they heard him speak something.
I mean, the church ain't nothing more than when 2 or more of God's people gather.
That's
I mean,
it.
these are like basic principle things that I'm saying too. So
Yeah.
if you don't know what I'm talking about, no disrespect. But again, like I said earlier, you need to get to know God, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, one of the people that works in the agency with us, his name is Ahmad. He actually touched on this. He shares a Bible verse every day on his Instagram stories.
Yeah.
And has random people in the industry reach out to him on private.
Wow.
And say, I really needed to hear that today.
Wow, man, that's great.
So
not a church.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
Sabrina explained that so eloquently, and she's on the money. Like, I'll say, I think so. The first thing is most of the people, quote unquote, that are in the industry grew up in church. Almost everybody that y'all know, that you ever heard of, say, I grew up in church. Well, the irony is, if you grew up in church, when people say, well, what happened? You know, how come you still don't, whatever? And then the real stories come out. I'm not going to name specific churches, but y'all see some of the craziness that's going on right now.
Yeah.
And let me tell y'all something. This stuff isn't new.
It's not.
This stuff is just, remember I said our generation is just bold.
Yeah.
We just tell it.
Yeah.
Not really bold. They're just tired.
Well, no, but there's a boldness that comes over because you can be, because a lot of people are tired. They just leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The boldness is saying, I left, but then you say, but I left because Pastor so-and-so did so-and-so.
Yeah.
XYZ did so-and-so. So when you ask, what's the relationship is a lot of people, they consider themselves Christians.
Yeah.
And they may have
at
one point dedicated their life to Christ and backslid and whatever. But I will tell you, like Sabrina said, we are more of the people at the end of the day that I would say that they'll go, because of how you've operated, I went and called my grandma, who's the spiritual person in my and I asked her to pray for me. And I did go to church next week and I did, whatever. But that's my main thing though. Like I tell people all the time, like, I think the biggest and the most important thing is you need to, my dad said something to me and it resonated me with so much. And I really live my life like this. I don't remember when he told me this. He might have told me this around 18, 19. I know it was around the time when me and him were bumping heads.
Yeah.
But he said something to me, it was so important, which was so ironic too. And I'll mention this really quickly because I love my dad. And that's how much I've always been in the mix. I was always hanging around with like gang members. I was always like hanging around people that smoked, sold drugs, did this, did that, whatever, all of this type of stuff. But I never was the person that got caught up, you know what I'm saying, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember one day I came home and I was smelling like weed because I was in a studio session. My dad was like, you smoking weed? You know, this, that, and the third, whatever. I was like, nah, Pop, you know I don't smoke. He was like, I just smell like it. I was just around him. And I remember another time when I was just, doing my little hustle, CDs, candies or whatever. I came home with a knot of money or whatever. My dad was like, boy, you out here selling drugs? And I was like, no. Now, remember, I have to tell y'all, this is the disclaimer. I didn't learn a lot about my dad's life until I got older. So a lot of stuff that he thought I was doing was projection.
Yeah.
And he was scared because he thought that I was going to end up, doing whatever. But what he didn't know was I was already covered for that.
Come on.
You know what I mean? And a lot of it had to do with him praying and his mom and different things.
Yeah.
So
I was the complete opposite. I did it all.
I know. I'm not saying that to say I was perfect. Like I said, I told y'all, like I lived my life. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying though is that I always was rooted.
Yeah.
Like I was always rooted.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I'll say, I can relate. I think, growing up in Miami, especially after I had given my life to Jesus, like here's the thing too. A lot of Christians want to look at people in the industry who maybe didn't grow up in church and don't know Jesus yet. And we want to automatically write them off and cancel them. Well, I'll say this. I didn't know Jesus. And thank God for the person who saw worth in me to see a insecure shell of a human Miami girl partying it up every night my parents had gotten divorced. Everything that I thought was perfect about my life, I thought it was normal for, mom and dad to fight every night. I thought it was normal for families to not know how to resolve conflict. And again, it's not a disrespect to my family. I think my family, as much as I look back and I'm like, oh man, that was not great, is probably the norm in most families.
It's the blueprint.
It is the blueprint, right?
Yeah.
But again, it was a lot of hiding, a lot of pretending, a lot of when you're around people where, we're just got it all together, but behind closed doors. Well, here's the thing. It imploded when I turned 18 and I was going away to Florida State, which was known for being a party school. I didn't have Jesus in the center. I didn't have mentors in my life to point me the right direction. And guess what I did? I went from living the bubble of I'm going to do everything by the rules. I'm going to be a good girl. And when I turned 18 and my family and my life imploded, I remember thinking, well, that didn't do me any good. So I'm going to go do all the things because doing the right thing never really did anything to serve me. There's a lot of people that think like that, and it doesn't make them heathens and bad people. And I remember I did all the things. Okay. And I'm just so grateful that somebody saw me in my worst days and thought, I'm going to invite. Yeah. I'm going to invest in her. And nobody threw a Bible in my face. Nobody slapped me a list of things I couldn't do. They just, listen to this. They just loved me. Yeah. And they just invited me into their life. And honestly, it changed my life forever. And I say that to say, again, this is why I, now 40 years old and living with Jesus, raising children who will never know what it was like to not have that as the norm. I have such a burden for young adult girls who are sleeping around, who are experimenting with drugs, who don't know the value that they have. But here's the thing. Once God changed my life, I could still live in Miami and be above reproach. Not perfect, but set apart. Oh, yeah. I lost a lot of friends. Oh, yeah. I remember the first time I tried being that friend, you'll laugh. That was like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the club because I love my friends, but I'm not going to drink. And I did. I went and I didn't drink. And that lasted one night because I was like, these bathrooms sober are nasty.
Disgusting.
Like, I can't believe I was ever in here.
You really start to realize.
Then you also get really annoyed when a guy hits on you because you're like, whoa, I'm sober and I totally see what you're doing right now. Ill, walk away.
I don't need you to buy a drink.
And I don't need your drink, right? And they're all confused because they're like, aren't you the same girl that was like here?
That drink buys your conversation.
Right.
At least that's what
so then
Tank
it turned
said.
into, you know what, maybe I can't be here. Like, and I remember losing friendships because, if I couldn't be in those environments anymore, they did feel like I thought I was better than them. And unfortunately, in my case, I did have to lose friendships. But God is so good. He gave me new friendships. And even till this day, I have such a heart when I meet young women who don't know their worth, who are still caught up in that. And again, if the Christians had looked at me through the lens of, that throwaway person or, ooh, let's stay away from that. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, God would, I really do believe I have a call in my life. So God would have found me somehow. He would have something, but it may have gone a whole different path if it were not for someone who said, hey, I love you and I need to get you in church. I want you to come with me. And they also bribed me with lunch. So that was the best thing they could have ever
So basically
done.
You're saying that if one of God's real children wouldn't have recognized you, then man, that's so interesting because it's almost like they would have to actually be obedient to what God was saying to approach you and to make sure that they brought you in a certain way. It's almost like that was their assignment. It's almost like that's our assignment.
Yeah. And guess what? Because of that, it's become my assignment. It's forever marked me. Yeah. I relate with you, Q. I can literally be around anybody. Anybody. And I'm going to be myself. This is the thing. I'm not going to if I'm around the Hispanics, I'm not going to act more Hispanic. If I'm around, I'm just going to be me. Yeah. But I have always also connected with I'm just going to be me. And I think people appreciate that. Yeah. And now because of that woman choosing to see me, now I'm forever marked. I'll walk in a room and I'm like, you right here. Come on, let's talk. Yeah. And what you said is the boldness.
Sabrina actually mentioned that you'll do that because we were talking and she said, yeah, you and Lauren are so alike. She said, you the same way. She's like, you, because I was telling her, because I was talking reminiscing. And I was saying we used to do parties and stuff. I used to say, it was so funny. People would come to our house, party, do whatever. And every time at the end, we end up having real conversations. Always about God, always about relationships, always about progress, where you at in life, how can we help each other. But this is after we done did whatever. We done had the basement, bump and grind, Joe, whoever. And then after, because my whole thing was always this.
Drunk, high.
To your point, when you said that, when there was situations, I didn't mind being myself, but there were places like, if I knew for a fact, I'm like, okay, we go down there. I'm like, all right, we go to this party. I'm like, I know those guys. I'm like, the party gonna get shot up. I'm like, come to my house.
Yeah,
right?
Come on.
So there would be an environment where they feel like they're doing their thing, but they don't realize I'm watching them.
Yeah.
God's watching them.
Yeah.
They're covered.
Yeah.
There was even times, like, because I'm not gonna lie to y'all. When I say we used to do the party thing, like when we used to tell people to come over, we would shut the whole whatever down.
Yeah.
There was even a time when the cops came. The cops were people that me and my roommate went to high school with. We didn't get no tickets. We didn't get no nothing. They were like, "You or Quinell?" They were like, "Quinell, Chris?"
Yeah.
They were like, "What?" And they were like, "Y'all good, man. Just keep it down, whatever." But they knew me.
Yeah.
There's no need for people to go to jail. But, yo, Q, you got it? As long as you say you got it,
we're good.
We're going to leave and that's it.
Yeah.
But it always was God's cover. As I said, I thought it was just me. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But see,
it was God working through me.
This is a perfect example, though, because, like, we're talking about the person who is a believer and they want to get into the industry. Lauren and Q, y'all just touched on something super important. You didn't talk about people coming at you, throwing Bibles at you, or Q throwing Bibles at people and dragging them to church. It's all about action, and it's all about invitation.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's all about action and invitation. And actually, to go back a little bit, like when we first started talking in the beginning of the podcast, we talked about things that we wouldn't compromise or do to like get into certain situations, right? People know right off the bat that me and Q are married. They know by how we interact, how we move around, how we talk. We're always talking about each other when the other person isn't there. That's how people know. And then once they start to see that, then they get to a little bit more intrigued. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about what you got going on. And then they just watch us.
Right.
They just watch.
Yeah.
Whether we have talked to them for like every single day or a year later or whatever, they just watch.
Yeah.
And that's really all it needs that's all that needs to happen.
Yeah.
You don't have to throw stuff in their face, throwing scripture in their face at all times.
Yeah, the best example of going back to your question is it's your walk, it's your life.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, like you could be the church homie for 15 years, but we ain't really hung out outside of church. I'm gonna know who you are for real when we outside of church. Because in church, you already come in, I gotta be a certain way, whatever, this, that, and the third, praise the Lord. Yeah, everything's good. But if I catch you out in the street and it ain't doing good, and you at that check cashing place, and they ain't trying to cash that check or whatever, and you turn up, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, all right, cool. Now, when you see me, that's how I'm gonna know who you are. If you be like, yo, Q, man, you know how it is, whatever. Or if you feel like, oh, man, I hope that wasn't the representation of me that then I'll be like, oh, you fake. I'm like, because I probably would have been doing what you was doing too. They're like, really? I'm like, hey, newsflash, I'm a human being.
Yeah.
I got emotions. Things trigger me. It's not always right. I'm like, I like to be around people who know they're not perfect, but we're striving to do better. But anybody that I never liked fake people. Like, I can see right through you the minute, and I might even let you rock, but in the back of my head, I'm like, man, this dude don't even know. He don't even know, bro. Like, I ain't never hanging out with this dude again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it's not because, to your point, he's somebody that's just like needs help, whatever. It's that arrogance of being like, again, like back to your point, how's the church scene? It's that arrogance of being like, when we go to church together, I have to be a certain way. I'm put together. I'm this and that. I'm all these other things. Another problem with that is you can't reach other people because you're not relatable.
Yeah.
When you're too perfect, how you going to relate to the average person if you at this level?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Q got me a couple times in the beginning we were dating because remember I told you I used to be in them streets before I met Q. And there were a lot of times that a lot of women would come to me seeking that like big sister mentorship type of thing. And I'm like, nah. And Q was like, why are you doing that? I said, nope, I'm not into the things that they're into. He's like, yeah, but you used to be. I'm like, God dang, Q, I don't want to.
He got you. He got you.
Yeah. And a lot of times we would butt heads on that. But it's funny because fast forward, it still happens to this day where I get a lot of women that used to be
that are now the way you used to be.
Yes.
Yeah, because we've talked about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. But what I love about Sabrina is she'll bring these scenarios because initially, I mean, the response isn't like, oh God, I'm so glad. It's like, it's at first you're like, my gosh, I'm so annoyed. And then she'll always come to me and be like, I see my pride again. I see that pride coming up.
Yeah.
What's crazy is God keeps putting people in front of me that are a lot like I used to be.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, look how crazy that is. You guys have such a heart for people, not just in the industry, but in your world that need Jesus.
Right.
But even with that posture, we're people.
Right.
And I've had conversations where Sabrina, loving Jesus, wanting nothing more than for people to know him, is like, why can't this person get their life together? Yeah. It's a real thing. It happens. And the cool thing is that she also walks with the Lord in such a way that it takes her 24 hours to be like, yep, there's my pride again. Yeah. Okay, I see what God's doing.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say, like, again, if you're listening to this episode, I really love it because we kind of went there in a lot of ways. And for someone listening, again, I hope that maybe something we say offends your Christianity for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I think I learned this a long time ago. Sometimes people will say, no offense. Well, the Jesus I follow offended. And he was all about offending the religious and the quote unquote religious elite.
Yeah. All the offensive.
And
Jesus'
so
name.
this episode honestly is so good because one of two things is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's either going to, as Birch said, blow your mind, and you, a believer who has a heart for lost people or saved people who are not living surrendered, because there's a lot of us. Okay.
Let's touch it.
What's going to happen is this episode's either going to unlock something in you that's going to reignite that fire that, as Birch said, chooses you to no longer call the dark dark, but rather be the light.
Yeah.
Right in the darkness. Or this episode's going to really upset you. And I just pray that it's the first option.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing.
Yep.
We are on a mission, really, with this podcast to invite people who are willing, as you said, bold is the word. This year is about being bold.
Yeah.
Bold in your faith, bold in that we are saved by grace. We are not perfect. Not one of us is perfect.
Right.
And honestly, here, I'll just say this. You might not be wearing a crop top and like acting like a video vixen, but if you gossip, you are equally in sin.
And gluttony
and all those things. And so I really
so many regular things.
Yeah.
I hope this episode, as we went there in a lot of areas, my heart really is that you take some time to like really hear with this episode, what are the areas that maybe you yourself, as Sabrina said, like maybe it's a pride thing, maybe it's an inner turmoil. It offends you because you yourself struggle with lust, and it's easier to point the finger out to other people
You better preach
than
it.
it is to see inside yourself.
Yes.
You have an issue with people saying it like it is because on your inside, you have been told you don't have a voice.
Yeah.
And so I'm really hoping. Listen,
You want a bomb?
I don't want to bomb. It's a distraction.
Flex bomb that girl.
But I just feel as we wrap this episode up, stop it. I am really ADD, guys. I hope as we wrap this episode up, just really from my heart to somebody, I really hope it offends in the best of ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you guys, seriously, like, thank you. Like we already knew it was going to be fire. We already knew you were going to bring the heat. And I feel like I even learned so much about you guys.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
just your stories. And I mean, a couple of times I heard you like guys say, like, man, I didn't even until we just processing this. So this really honestly I want to just encourage people. the more you tell your story, the more layers of healing you will unlock for yourself and for others.
Yeah.
And I think too many Christians are hiding the parts of their story that don't fit this side.
The image
And
they're
we need
portraying at
to
this
start
point.
sharing what God did in our lives.
Absolutely.
Because again, Jesus offended for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And so guys, man, this was
So good.
Oh, and I just want to, I have to piggyback on this, what
Yeah.
you said really quickly. Also share with your kids.
Yeah.
I don't know why there
Yeah.
has to be this divide and there's a gap that's happening right now.
There's
and it's
a reason
because
why the kids
the
run to
generation before us
Yeah.
and the one before that, there is no communication, proper, real communication with the kids.
There's also a reason why kids really connect with music and the music industry.
Yep.
And they have more influence than you do.
Yes.
Because guess what music does that we don't?
Tell stories.
Listen.
And listen, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a
so
fact.
I just
good.
wanted to put that
Yeah.
out there.
That's so good. That's so good. Q and Sabrina, this has been
this was
amazing.
so good.
Hey, how can our listeners connect with you? What can they follow? Give us your socials. Give us all the handles. Give it to us real quick.
I mean, the easiest,
websites, all the stuff.
easiest way at this point is probably just meettheholders.com because it has all our socials and it has all our
Yeah, it
information.
does.
That's
Yep.
great.
And then if you go into Meet the Holders and you go into the Twitter or the Instagram or whatever, it's all be on the website. It has our individual, websites and things. And then for the
Perfect.
company, hiremca.com for all your industry needs, whatever
Excellent.
it is you
Excellent.
need.
Or
tap
you
in.
can just Google Sabrina Voss Holder and Quinell Holder.
Oh, she took it there.
Ah,
Well, you
there
really
it is.
can do that, but
I'm
I
just saying.
Exactly.
You
I'm trying to keep
can.
Yes,
keep it light,
absolutely.
Hey,
like my wife said.
marketing is her lane. She
I'm
got
just
Perfect.
saying.
Like my wife said,
don't-
you can Google
don't-
us.
You Google us. Excellent. Excellent. So good. This was amazing, guys. Amazing conversation.
seriously, thank you.
Thank you guys so much. And
Thank
thank
you for
all
having
of
us.
you. Thank you so much for joining us for the Black and White Podcast. We hope this episode has brought you value. If it did, let us know by following us on Spotify and iTunes, liking and subscribing on YouTube, and sharing this video with a friend. Send us a DM and we'd love to hear your feedback or even a suggestion for an upcoming episode. Here's how you can find us on Instagram at TBWPod, at My Name is Birch, and at Lauren and Nicole Paul. We'd love to catch up with you. Thank you once again for joining us for the Black and White Podcast. My name is Birch. This is Lauren, and these are the Holders, and we're out of here.
Drop the bomb. Drop the bomb.
Peace.
Let's go.